Hello and welcome to B&E Now, a podcast about independent game development. I'm your host, Tobiah Zarlez, and with me today is Andy Gentili and Todd Wahaski. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
So, why do you make games?
Todd, you want to take this?
The short version of that answer would be because they're creatively rewarding and like no other job that I've ever had. So that's the short version. I guess the longer version would be what kind of got me into it and how I got there, but maybe we could cover that later. So we'll zip back to you, Andy.
Yeah, the short answer for me is just because I love them. As a kid, I grew up playing with my older brother and neighbors and stuff, and it was just all about games. And my neighbor is a good friend, and he was much older than me. Like, he was 17 and I was like 7, and he wanted to make video games, and so I kind of wanted to. And it's kind of a pretty far-fetched thing to say as a 7-year-old when like NES and SNES were like the only things out really kicking it. Maybe some PC stuff back then, but
So when did you first start, like, actually made your first game?
mine was it's kind of an interesting story. I don't know. I kind of don't like to talk about myself, but long story short is like I played so much Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, 1, 2, 3, including the demos. Tony Hawk 3 was the first PS2 game online, and so there weren't that many people on before the network adapter came out. So it was like the same 20, 30 people you see every day, including Neversoft employees. And we just kind of got like on a first name basis with each other with the online forums and playing all the time and talking, that they were just like, hey, you should come out, like, you slay so hard at this game, you should come out and test for a month. And when that, all went through, and it was cool. It was like the greatest thing ever to happen to a 16-year-old.
Wow, that's like a wizard-style story of like, wow, you're so good at playing this game, you should learn how to make them.
Yeah, it's like the only difference, like they should have just had the messaging in the game to like recruit people, but like it wasn't that crazy. It was like a couple people at Neversoft, like, flew me out there, turned in from a month to 3 months, and I was a junior in high school, and they wanted me to stay there through my senior year, but I wanted to finish with my friends at home, so I flew back home, finished senior year, and then a week after graduating, I moved to LA on my own, lived in a hotel for like a couple months, and then found an apartment across the street from Neversoft, and
I remember that I was working at Neversoft at the time, and I'd moved out there and got a job there around 2002 and working as an environment artist. And I do recall like Andy having his like 1 to 3 month. You were in the kind of QA department.
Yeah, I think I was the QA department.
You are, yeah. It was like you and one other person at the time, I think.
How big was the company at the time?
460, 50?
Yeah, when I started, it was like 30 people, maybe 35 or something.
Yeah.
Pretty small still.
Yeah.
Relatively.
For that little internship, it was around 40 people, I want to say. But then when I came back, it was like we were, or Neversoft was like kind of splitting into 2 teams for Gun, and it just like inflated in 1 year to like 120 people or something.
Yeah, that was a big growth period.
Yeah. Lots of air conditioner problems, I remember. But it was awesome. That's basically how I got started. I was a tester on Tony Hawk's Underground.
So what happened there? You moved on from testing and...
Yeah, so after Underground was done, it was kind of like this wish-washy moment for being the only on-site tester. Like, what am I doing now? So I'd sort of like... I built a lot of creative parks, and so that's just sort of like a designer cap in a way. And so I just walked into Joel Jouette's office and just said, hey, I'm going to use this time to learn 3D Max. If we can just get IT to like hook me up and put it on my machine, I'm just going to go through the tutorials and make chess pieces and do the cityscapes and modular, piece rotations and all that stuff. And that was essentially it. And I started trying to recreate older levels in Max, just kind of freehand, like without using any points of reference, and see how close I can get and use my own textures and that sort of thing. And that's kind of how it happened. And like by the end of Thug 2, like the next game we had to do, I was kind of like doing a lot of level critiquing and, writing up bugs just all around for the designers on their levels and stuff. And by the next game Todd and I worked on a level together. It was a few. It was Minneapolis, East LA, and a couple other ones. Chicago. and like one other one. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Very
I liked East LA. It was one of my favorites.
Yeah, people still bust that one. There's a version of Tony Hawk online you could still play, and East LA is like one of the most popular, which is awesome. It's pretty great. Jeff Morgan, I should give shout outs to because he started that one and he slayed that from the beginning too.
Right.
So then how did you guys transition from, the AAA of, the skater games to making your own skater game, Epic Skater?
Yeah, the idea was like, after iOS was a thing and, Tap Tap Revenge was making its way around and Stickman Skater was a big game. I think around when the App Store first, still coming around. I remember playing that game and just thinking like, man, there could totally be like a more full-fledged, fleshed out version of this with, actual 3D environments and like an angled perspective camera and stuff. Like, I don't know if you played Stickman Skater, but it's a, hard 2D skater with a push button and it just kind of picks the tricks for you and you just gap over simple grass gaps and stuff. And that was pretty much it. And I just downloaded Unity. I'd heard about it, people talking about it. And I just did some tutorials. I tried Game Maker and, that wasn't really what I was looking for, but, yeah, that was pretty much it. I think I just kind of from there, I had this idea and kind of started writing up docs on it and talking to people and Todd included and some people that used to work at Neversoft and just getting them pumped on the idea and just really got a Unity project started and a repository so people could pull and check in stuff, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
How many people did you, get involved for the initial production?
There's people coming in and out, like Todd was saying earlier, even I would say that I've been the only full-time guy since the beginning, or the guy that stuck around since the beginning. We've had some people come and go, contractors. I'd say, what was it, like 7 people maybe at the most?
It would kind of fluctuate up and down. I'd say it's 7 or 8 people or so, and everyone kind of did we had one guy doing some animations, a couple of programmers helping out, someone doing the character, and someone doing the environment. So it was kind of like everybody kind of taking the old studio kind of model, of course, where everybody has their own unique little job and you just do that and then kind of go from there, which may be, some of the mobile games obviously are made by 1 or 2 people doing everything. So it's kind of like we were just sort of coming at it from a different angle going like, well, I can do the environment part and this other guy he wants to do the characters.
Yeah.
So,
were you entirely self-funding or were you just saying like, okay, we'll get together and share profit, or how were you, getting so many people together?
Well, it was mainly just like the initial spurt of excitement was we wanted to get together a Kickstarter. And if you do the search, the Kickstarter is still up there and you could see all the progress that we made there. And it's kind of funny to go back and like my cringeworthy salesman video kind of I don't know. But yeah, the idea was just kind of to get it fun and just get the whole thing going. And everyone had their day jobs already, so it wasn't really much risk to anyone per se.
So yeah, I mean, there wasn't any business plan. There was no funding really. It was all just come and work on it, and if you want to, and people were just sort of doing it as a secondary thing. And I was just doing it at nighttime and helping out where I could personally.
Yeah, and before the Kickstarter, we were kind of we had a GDD and putting stuff together in the project, and Unity started out as a way for us to get screenshots for the GDD, just so we could kind of show what we're wanting to do and convey the idea more. And it just totally snowballed. And publishers weren't really returning our phone calls, or we didn't have much luck there, which is why we ended up going to Kickstarter.
Were you actively trying to find publishers? You were trying to shop it around?
Oh yeah, it was literally just doing Google searches, see who's got funding, who can sponsor or this and that, anywhere ranging from energy drink companies to skate brands to pro skaters. We've met with or done phone calls with, or just trying to get something happening. And I don't know, I'm not sure why it really fell through. For the most part, but after we did the Kickstarter, then our phone started ringing. People were oh, they have this, you could see it, and it's it looks rad, and and now we're interested. Like,
oh, and the Kickstarter failed too. You have to mention that.
Oh yeah, it's total abysmal. Well, not abysmal. It wasn't like, we learned a lot from that for sure, and like learned a lot about marketing and communicating and the whole process as remote independent developers and such. I wouldn't say it was a total loss by any means.
Yeah, I mean, it failed in the sense that it didn't earn enough money, but it was also a success because it led to future contacts.
It was a great press release.
Yeah, it showed that you got, stuff together. There was some interest. Yeah, you're organized enough for that. I definitely see that helps a lot when talking to a publisher. What year was the Kickstarter?
Man, is it 2012?
Yeah, it was 2012.
Around May 2012, I think.
Yeah, so still like relatively early in the Kickstarter life. What year was Double Fine Adventure?
It was around that time. I remember after, like, following it a few months after that, and just thinking, like, man, this is going to be so awesome.
I think it was like after that point was such a turning point for Kickstarter projects because there were so many more Kickstarter users and the quality bar was set so much higher that, it was just a really different environment.
Right, and I was actually doing a Kickstarter myself around that time for a totally different project as well. So it was kind of, it was all the hot at the time.
It was a surprisingly long process. Like you kind of think of it as like, oh, we can kind of get something up in like a week or two, and then you realize like the depth of all the rewards you need to fulfill, and like if you need to ship anything or how much things are going to cost. It's like business plan after business plan, like just kind of micromanaging all these little things if it all pans out. Like, I don't know. It was a good experience. I'd say I would definitely recommend it if you're trying to like do something independent for sure. I mean, why not? You got nothing to lose, really.
So the Kickstarter didn't work out for you guys, but then, people started calling you up. What happened next?
Well, there's a few things. Like we talked to some people. I don't know if I can mention names, but I'll say spoke with a couple pro skaters and a couple companies. One actually flew me out to their dev studio and was like, it was like this whole negotiating series and of emails and all this and that. And I went out and checked out their building, and it was multiple stories. It was pretty impressive, and they were pretty well established. And ultimately, they like, at the end they just kind of sat me down, and like it just it didn't work out. And after that one, I remember that one being like, that was like the last real thing that I thought could make it happen. And everything after that was kind of like a bunch. I call them pipe dreamers, where they just kind of, it's all talk, and then they never actually want to do anything. I've tried to go through a few other companies, and it just kind of like fell through. And for a while there, it was kind of like, man, I don't know if we should even make this game. Apparently there's like not even, it's kind of like, it goes back to your original question, like, why do you make games? It's like, well, I could stop now, but I can't not make games.
Yeah, I find that so common with success stories, that there's a moment in the story where it's like, this is where the rational person would quit.
Yeah, it's the guy pushing the rock up the hill, and like, why am I pushing this rock? I could just be a mailman and like make some decent pay, get some good benefits, and be all right or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, but like I'm so far down that hole, and it's like with the background, like being 16 years old and like doing all this is like, what am I going to do now? So I can be a cook or something. It's like I gotta follow it through. So
and hey, we're not totally out of it yet either. We could still be mailmen if we wanted to.
Yeah, there's still time.
We could abandon all games.
I mean, we're definitely not. It hasn't been a huge financial success or anything, so it's still kind of in that stage where, But anyway, keep going, Andy.
I mean that's pretty much it. I don't know. I kind of like lost where I was going with that, but. Yeah, I don't know.
So okay, so you weren't sure how the game's continue, weren't sure how it was going to get funded. The game did come out. Spoiler alert. So
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll say after that, like we had interviewed with some people that were local in the LA area and in San Francisco and stuff, and just emails back and forth, and people wanting new builds with this or that, these changes and sort of stuff and whatever. And then we saw a press release for GameStop and Congregate partnered, and they have this huge amount of money to invest in new independent developers to start in their mobile division. Because I don't know if for the listeners who don't know, Congregate.com is a huge platform for people, the bedroom indie dev enthusiasts to put their game up and just get the community playing. And you could make some profit from in-app purchases, ads that are on the page, and this and that. So we were interested. It had been around for a while. They had a huge arsenal, and they seemed like a fairly large company, especially to be partnered with GameStop. You probably got some firing power, under your belt. So after 3 or 4 months of kind of like back and forth and sending builds and like doing this and that and negotiating, we eventually landed a deal. It was not the amount of money that we were hoping for, but so what I ended up doing is taking out a loan myself and sort of like more or less matching that, and that just got the ball rolling and helped us really get just going. And the team was kind of evolving around that point, and some people had come and gone, and we eventually came around to this guy. I'll name drop Ted Brown. He has a company called Organic, and he lives in Oregon. He's doing lots of great things in Eugene. He heads the whole indie game con thing over there. And anyway, he before he was tackling all that stuff, he agreed to take the ball to the touchdown zone, basically, and it helped us get Epic Skater out the door after he started in January and finished in August.
And this would be, now we're talking 2013, I believe?
Yeah, because we came out... Man, it's so weird. It's 2016 now, so we came out in 2014.
It was 2014 because and before Ted Brown got involved, there was constant development happening, albeit at a very slow pace. Andy, I think you had scraped together some funding from like your parents or something, and I basically agreed to work on the game for a period of time for what would be called like a reduced rate, I guess, from my normal freelance rate.
Yeah.
And so I just, I was like, kind of had this feeling too, where at the same time I was like, man, we have something here. I know this game is going to be cool. I know it has potential. It's going to be a good game, and people are going to enjoy this. Yeah.
The controls were snappy, and like you could tell, it was like the goal of setting that Tony Hawk feel was there, like the snappiness of the responsiveness, and at the same time, it's like this part of our X statement is like we want to appeal to those grandmas on the bus, where you just make it as simple as possible, but have enough depth to where people who are gamers like won't get tired after the first couple.
So, besides that whole, we want it to be for everybody. Like, what was your target audience? Did you want to try and simplify the Tony Hawk experience so that it did feel more accessible, but you're just trying to balance fit too much? Did you kind of notably say we're going to simplify it, which makes it very different feel from that kind of earlier era of skate game?
Yeah. My perspective on that was Andy, like the way that Andy was kind of involved in designing the control scheme was so that you could play the game kind of with one finger. And obviously when you're talking about a controller, Tony Hawk had pretty much used every button on the controller and various combinations and so forth. And so you take that, and it obviously wouldn't convert to a touchscreen on a phone. So kind of like why try was I think.
Yeah. And initially it was like, well, let's just make it 2D so people don't have to steer. And so that gets rid of one hand altogether pretty much. And on top of that, nailing the art style is something that, took months, if not years, to kind of like come around. I thought Todd really nailed it. We kind of, went the Ape Escape or Subway Surfer route of kind of like bright and bubbly, and Angry Birdsified it to where we were trying to appeal to as many people as possible and as many places as possible.
Yeah, I didn't want to limit anything, and just if we made a game that was kind of dark and grungy, it might only appeal to a certain group of people or something like that. So we kind of talked about that a lot and just made the decision because the earlier demo was very much more
realism,
a little bit more real. I mean, I wouldn't say total. I mean, the character was always a bit cartoony and stuff, but we were kind of doing more kind of like how we used to work at Neversoft, where we'd make textures, and then we found that with the limitations at the time in 2012, 2013 of building mobile games, and just not having an engine. I mean, we were using Unity, but we hadn't really proved ourselves, and the performance of the game was suffering at times. It was kind of this always thing where it was kind of going up and down, and we weren't really sure the cause of that.
Yeah, it was a learning process.
Right. So sometimes the game just wouldn't be performing, and of course, the finger always points to the artist at that point, saying like, "You've gone too crazy, artist. What's your problem?" So I was always like, I'm gonna try to remove that from the conversation as much as possible, and just make everything as simple and kind of just simple, but yet still visually appealing as possible. And so keeping the poly counts down, making all the textures in an atlas, of course, and all that stuff. Just trying to make sure that I wasn't the guy that was going to be blamed for the problem.
Yeah.
What's the biggest thing that changed about the game from that, initial game design document to the product that actually came out?
It's about 1/1000th of the initial scope size. We originally wanted to aim for multiple levels, unique environments, landmarks for each level, and like basically we needed a team of like 45 artists. But like I don't know,
moving from that like AAA mindset of like it's got to be big and polished and have 100 hours of gameplay to it's got to ship and then we could add gameplay later.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
also a big thing was the whole game mode change from kind of being levels to being just the one endless level at one.
That's right.
Point.
Yeah. We initially were going to do like start to finish levels, and that just proved to be so much work. I mean, you're zipping by all these assets and hard work like within a minute, and that minute could take us like 2-3 months to really polish up, even longer than that probably per level. At the rate we were going anyway. And so we kind of just like tried this like endless approach, like this quick little thrown together thing. And it sort of proved to like work. And so it kind of just evolved from there. And we ended up throwing the levels that we had already built into the endless format. And it works now. Like there's many things we could improve about it, which we're working on now. But
how big are your chunks for the random level generation? Like, obviously, you kind of have a little pre-designed, moments, and then you kind of string them together, right? But is it like, each 30 seconds is a different pre-designed moment? Is it every 5 seconds you're, going crazy?
So you had a chance to play the game?
I very, very briefly played it.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I guess I thought it was like incredibly obvious as like the designer. The little chunks, they start out a little bit small, like I'd say like anywhere from like 20 to 40 units long. And then as you progress, it's separated into tiers, right? So you start off at the slowest and the smallest, and then you start getting faster. So that in return, those pieces have to get kind of bigger. Yeah, the big level ones were about anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 units. And the endless pieces could be anywhere from like 20 to 200 units long. And, we're limiting like 40 units depth or so just to limit like art, like fill this area with art. We wanted to limit that depth wise. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I guess what more so I was asking is, do you have kind of blank pieces that you say, all right, I'm going to start off with this general idea of a path and I'm going to procedurally add, rails and coins and blah, blah, blah. Or is it, just pre-designed chunks that are strung together? Like, how do you come up with those pieces?
Yeah, I start off with graph paper and a pen or pencil and just kind of like draw out, because I try and make every piece to have some sort of...
So it is like, there's a specific rail with hand-placed coins kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, our coins are little chunks of 9, whether they're in a square or they're in a line. And yeah, all the pieces are uniquely designed, but they're in a sense that I've predetermined everything that happens within that piece. So if you see a rail on a piece, you're going to see that same rail the next time around. And same with the coins, and the sodas have a chance of showing. And yeah, I mean, I start off with the pen and paper and then move into Max and just build collision out of it. And then kind of use the assets that Todd's prepared and plop them around and kind of make it work with the ground terrain first, with the street, the road, the sidewalk.
And I would say like there's a good reason for that too, because the whole idea of design, if you leave it to be modular or something, that we feel like the game just suffers. Like it's not hand designed. Yeah, it's kind of like you're relying on the computer to make it fun, kind of a thing. Yeah. And that's just not really, in my opinion, a great way. And probably Andy, I'm sure, would agree.
Totally.
The level design is pretty much like, it's really important, and it is maybe somewhat basic, of course, being that it's a kind of a 2.5D game. But it's still, you have to put effort into that and make it fun. Otherwise,
that's because it's endless. Doesn't mean that you can just say, oh yeah, you can keep playing it forever. It doesn't mean it's going to be fun forever.
Right.
You got to make that interesting gameplay.
Well, and that kind of, we've sort of run into that barrier where the game kind of, we feel like it does sort of peak out at this point once you've kind of got all your stats up and everything. And so we're kind of working on some ways to enhance that now, where it doesn't really just stop at some point. It kind of keeps on going, or at least the player's allowed to continue making it better as they go, if they buy things or if they are able to earn them.
Yeah,
the game seems to have had some pretty good success. How many million times have been downloaded now? 6, 7?
We're approaching 9.
Nice.
9 million. Yes, and 4.5 stars, iTunes, and 4 out of 5 on Android, which is pretty great. And considering it's a skateboarding game, let's say I have the stock open. It's like U.S., Canada, Australia. Let's see, and then it goes Brazil, Great Britain, India, and Spain are our next most popular countries, which is crazy to think. And there's even days where we get like analytics back, and there's like one guy playing in Indonesia or something.
Nice.
It's like,
have you localized the game? I assume
we didn't actually.
Really? That's even more interesting.
Yeah, totally. And I was thinking about we were actually talking about the UI today, and we're redesigning it.
Did you at least like localize the description or anything?
No.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when you think about it, most of the game is in numbers, and then most of the text of the game are kick tricks.
No,
so
there's absolutely to its strength for sure. Because as long as you can communicate something with a symbol and it's clear, do it that way. Because no one wants to read, right? Even people who are fluent in English don't want to read English.
And also, like, due to budgetary constraints and time, of course, we never really got to the point where we have any cutscenes or any kind of like story or anything. It's just like
anything,
and that's maybe that kind of is good for localization in some ways.
Yeah, it'd probably be pretty cheap. There's actually even like resources out there to play button and next and all the standard phrases that have been translated a million times.
Yeah, but that's definitely on the list of possibilities. Would be number one to like localize, and hopefully we're kind of at the stage where it's like if we could just increase the revenue a bit more. I think we're all kind of feeling like this could turn into something where we get to work on it a lot more often and get paid to work on it, not have to work on it for free or for small, like lesser amounts of money, or where it could actually be a day job.
So let's talk about the business model. Like, how does the game make money?
Well, it's free to play. There are in-app purchases to buy coins and energy drinks, and energy drinks will let you get back up after bailing and set a new higher score potentially, or get a further distance,
if you will.
Yeah, exactly. So, in addition to that, we've later introduced watching a video to get up. That's a rewarded video. Mm-hmm. So. It's provided by whatever ad network provider that shows up in the waterfall. And then we have, interstitials. So when you boot up the game, you see a quick ad. And any in-app purchase in the game will get rid of ads completely. So the smallest in-app purchase you can make is $1.99 and you get some coins. And, and that's sort of like where we're at right now. And all the coins you're collecting throughout the game can be spent on upgrading your skater with new stats or buying outfits or boards that give you perks like more points or better ollie time or, little this and that's perks. And that's essentially it. I mean, am I missing anything?
No, I think that's it. I mean, you could cover kind of like when we launched, we actually had no ads in the game at all. The game was basically like you could kind of play through the game for there was just not a lot of great revenue making opportunities for us at the launch time, which of course, hindsight maybe was not the best way to proceed.
Yeah,
it's not the worst either, though, because like you're not at your peak popularity at launch. People who talk about
true.
like, oh man, you missed your launch windows. Like that's really AAA thought, right? Because like AAA, you only have a couple months where something's actually going to sell. It's actually going to be on the store shelves and promoted and have an ad in a magazine, and then you'll never see it again. But the digital marketplace, there's kind of a ramp up, and it's okay to start with that ramp up focusing on getting players and the gameplay experience right, as long as you know kind of where you're going to go with monetization, right?
Yeah.
Right. And Andy could probably talk about, we were very fortunate at launch time, and you could tell him why, Andy.
Yeah. Wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
Because we got into featured in the App Store.
Oh, right. Yeah. We did get front page on like iTunes on iPad and iPhone, and we were in the top 50. I think we got to like number 16 on free. And so that was just also, there was like, the first day I'm like refreshing my phone. Like I was out at a party and I like didn't care about the party. I cared about my game, and I'm just like refreshing, and it's like, 400K, 500K, 600K in the first day downloads counts. And I'm just like freaking out. And we didn't have
really good.
Yeah, we didn't have any interstitial ads, and we had rewarded video support to where you could watch videos to get like 50 coins, and then it would go to 100 coins and up to 250. And people weren't really doing that. We shipped it with a couple bugs at launch too, unfortunately, that we didn't see until after, which prevented a lot of purchasing and stuff. But I guess if there's one lesson to be learned, I would have included interstitial ads from the beginning. But like you said, you're not very well established. That could very well turn off players who don't know anything about you and just kind of like are dismissive. So,
did you have analytics in the game at launch?
Yeah, that was one of our requirements set by Congregate as a milestone. We had to do.
It's a good thing. So many developers don't, and you can't learn anything without it.
Yeah, we learned quite a lot from it. We did learn that our first time user experience completion rate was awesome. Like people who booted up the game and like almost, it was like over 50% of people were completing the first time user experience, which apparently is really good.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good.
I could be wrong about that, but if I remember correctly, that's what it was.
We're okay with ballparks on the show. We don't need to.
Yeah. Get into nitty gritties, but
if you said 90%, I would have been like, really?
Yeah. But yeah, it was one of those requirements, and thankful we did. Even integrating the skate shop, we could see how many people were purchasing what and all that, and it's been really useful.
Right. So when we launched, there was no skate shop at all. There was there wasn't what we have now in terms of some character customization. So we've kind of learned and added as we've gone along. And it's been out for about a year and a half now or so, or a little bit longer. It was, I think, August. Yeah, it was released in 2014. Yeah, so it's been out now for a year and a half or so, and we've kind of added a few things, but we've been more, as Andy had said, like kind of in like this maintenance mode, where Andy's primarily been keeping it updated with the help of some programming staff that is hired on like freelance based.
Yeah, we learned a lot about ads and how beneficial they can be, especially when you're using them correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a lot of maintenance with that, a lot of SDK updates. It's stuff that I'm learning. This is like not familiar to me because I come from working on a Xbox 360 background or PS2 or whatever. So updating the SDKs for ad network providers and like every play we started using, so you could like share replays online and stuff like that. So all these little things take time and QA and fixing this and that. Sometimes they crash like lower spec, devices or this and that. So it's been kind of like, aside from actually adding content to the game, which we have been doing very little by little, it's just a lot of upkeep and making sure that our crash counts are down, our bug counts are down, people writing nasty reviews, or like those issues are getting addressed and all that sort of thing. So, but now we're kind of like reached this point where we're like, okay, the game is like pretty stable and consistently stable. Like we're upgrading to Unity 5 and we're doing all this stuff to kind of like streamline the process and, want to redo the UI and get localization happening and stuff. And so now it's like getting to this point where it's like, okay, well, let's do the next step.
Yeah, let's start spreading it out too, because that's another thing that's really changed compared to the AAA landscape of, just because the game's been out a year doesn't mean that like, oh, it's over now. Like, no, now you're just starting to iterate and spread it out because there's kind of an infinite number of users out there.
Shelf life is like not a thing anymore. It's
the moment your game stops making money is the moment you stop working on it.
Right. Yeah. So like, how many does anyone know how many users Subway Surfers has? Like, I remember the guy who owns it tweeted out like, they're up to like 125 million users or something ridiculous, daily active users or something.
There's certain games that cross a threshold to like really, really ridiculous, right? Like there's kind of like these tiers of success, right? Like the difference between 10 to 15 million and like 100 million is like one tier, right? Like there's very few games that are like in between that, right? Like they're either on the way to 100 million, going up and crazy, or they're kind of hovering in like that, 5 to 15 million range.
Yeah, and they're like, I just feel it's crazy. There's still more people that haven't played it and haven't downloaded it, and just more customers waiting to throw the wallet at the screen. Like,
I mean, I'm totally of the opinion that this game could go on for a long time. And we talk about, hey, would we ever maybe like make another game or a sequel or something like that? And you kind of have to ask yourself, there's maybe like, why would you do that? Because you can just keep updating this one and
compete with yourself.
Keep making it better. There's very little reason to put a 2 next to it. And,
right.
Unless you're doing something that like you want to have the old one be simultaneously, playable and popular, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I think I'm of the opinion that we've kind of like we've started. I feel like the game right now, as it stands, is like, it is what it is. It's kind of almost, I would consider like a demo of what's possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've barely even scratched the surface of where it could go. And that's what really excites me about continuing. You've been working on this. It's been going since 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Here it is now, 2016. And it's like, I feel like, there's a great potential future for this game and for a lot of mobile games that they go on for 4 or 5 years or so, and people are still happy to play them. And so it's great to hear about the shelf life and that it can translate to another platform pretty easily. Like, there's potential with the TV OS or something like that, where maybe that game could work well on other platforms too. So it's kind of exciting to think about all that.
Nice with Unity because you can go to other platforms so easy.
Right.
Yeah. What are they up to now? Like some ridiculous, like 42?
Oh yeah, they brag about how many platforms. it's the answer is everyone. Like the question is, what platforms does it not work on?
Yeah, really. You could like deploy to Samsung TV too. I think it's like some.
It's pretty. That was arbitrary. Like, how much do you want to work on it? The answer is
yeah. Right, and that's totally
some
true.
Some of them are easier than others, but
there's such important decisions to make too, and it's you don't always have that light in front of you that's like go this way, and so you are pulled in all these directions. I mean, we talk about it all the time of like maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that, and there's no there's no right or wrong. It's just like we would like to make it. We want to funnel ourselves into it being a bit more profitable, or increasing our user base, or somehow increasing our revenue model. Not like crazy amounts, just like enough so that we could sort of like keep working on it full time, and then that will hopefully snowball into adding more team members, and then just kind of keep building things from there. So it's I'm not personally seeking like Ferraris and Lamborghinis and helicopters. No. I'm just like I want to like it'd be awesome to work on this like full time and just not feel like your bills are being paid and you're living relatively comfortably and all that. I'm not one of these people that's like shooting for Wall Street executive level pay. Like that.
I always tell my friends, like, I love my car. I have a 2006 Scion XB, like the toaster mobile, the box one. I'm a drummer and it fits my drums perfectly and it has great gas mileage. I would not even, maybe if I had like $30 million to like buy a Lamborghini or whatever just for this.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I got a Nissan Cube. It was my wife's car before she was my girlfriend, and it's now our family car. And with a kid and everything, it's so nice. Great. You can pack everything in that. Don't have to be stylish.
Yeah, if you're in a Porsche, that wouldn't work out really. But.
Yeah.
So, are you doing any paid promotions for the game? Are you doing any user acquisition? Facebook ads, anything like that?
We aren't doing any user acquisition. However, when we soft launched in New Zealand and a couple other places, there was someone at Congregate did a user acquisition campaign just to get people to test the game in its soft launch period. And as far as I know, that was pretty much it. It was like 1 month of that before we even launched. And then that was it. We haven't done any more after that.
Have you thought about like, looking into, okay, what's my, lifetime value per customer? How much is it going to cost?
Yeah. Like that definitely crosses my mind like every day. Like how can I increase the value of our users so I can pay to acquire them? And it would, even out, if not better. It hasn't gotten to the point to where it makes sense to rapidly invest just continuously over time, like Clash of Clans does or whatever. But
yeah, and it's hard to get to that magic moment where if you're making 1 cent in that transaction, or even 0.001 cent, that it's literally buy unlimited, right? Because as long as you're making money, but you have to do it kind of early where you lose a little bit, but you got to see how many people stick around, what's they're sticky with, how many going. Okay, I see this many people. How many people does that lead to with the viral effect? How many friends do they recommend it to? There's just so many factors that it's there's reasons why there's multiple full-time type job positions and the mobile game companies now that just deal with those statistics.
Yeah. I would say that falls more under our publishers category, but in the future, definitely. We did show up in a magazine. What was it? Game Informer?
I believe it was. Yeah.
We're on the very last page of Game Informer. And it was just this little like quarter page, like with our icon. It was just a total surprise one day. Someone messaged me with a picture. So other than that,
that's the publisher, sneaking in there and doing something like that, which it's great. It's awesome when you hear those things, and obviously, promotion is good. And we kind of did. I feel like we're sort of capable of doing a lot of the marketing just with Andy and I and a few other people.
Yeah, we did the trailer.
Yeah, and so it's kind of cool, and you do have to kind of go like, what's the relationship of the publisher and the developer, and who does what. So it's been good so far. I mean, I think
we had some friends text me or call me randomly like, dude, I'm at GameStop right now, and like Epic Skater's on TV. What's going on, man? Where's my Lamborghini? Like, it's like, how's it going? Yeah, which is pretty cool too. But yeah, other than that, I haven't really done any UA. Yeah.
All right, so I have a question for both of you now.
Okay.
I have a time machine, hypothetically, and we can go back in time, and you have 30 seconds to tell yourself something at some point in time. How back do you go, and what do you say?
No regrets. I don't know. Honestly,
that's still your regrets, right? But like,
yeah.
What advice would have really liked to have heard from a future you?
Man, I don't even know. I can't even.
I could probably go. I first of all, I'm a big fan of time travels.
Yeah, me too.
It's not in the spirit of the question to be like, I would go back to a certain time and buy this stock.
No. I know what you mean. I would actually probably have told myself, have a little more, like, take your time with things, have a little more faith in things. Don't give up so easily on certain things. The world isn't coming to an end tomorrow. I used to be kind of like a doomy. I think around 04, 05, 06, I was kind of into like internet mythology and doom and gloom and all that stuff back then. And I think it influenced some decision making, even, to the point where I was would have been better off having not seen some of that stuff. And so I would say, like, hey, just relax, take a deep breath, keep going where you're at, and everything will be just fine. However, everything's worked out pretty well so far. So, I've missed out on a few money trains, I would call them. I've watched them pass me by and sail away. Yeah. So I don't know if I would have told myself to stay put where you're at or not. But I think it would just be the good advice would just be like, kind of like, don't give up so easily on certain things and ideas. Like, that's why I feel like with Epic Skater, I'm like, hey, let's just keep going on this, because it could still turn into something, even though it's been out for a year and a half. It could still go. And I don't think I would have felt that way 5 or 6 years ago. I think I would have probably already have moved on or given up by now.
Yeah. I think that pretty much answers it for me too. Like the money train being that I could have just worked on Call of Duty, but I just wanted. I was, 26 at the time, or 25, and just, I don't have any strings really. I'm not married, no kids, no house, so I just wanted to take this huge risk, and definitely wouldn't change that. But yeah, I'd say going back to what Todd was saying is like just have more faith in what you're doing. Like especially having 10 years like working on skate games, like I'm always questioning myself and just wondering if it's really the best thing or if it's going to work out and if everyone else is going to like it or whatever. I just, in the end, it's kind of like I'm making it for myself in a way, and that's what I want to be playing. So as long as I'm doing that, I should be in good shape, I think.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I always like to end the show pivoting towards not just, talk about making games, but talk about games that we've been playing lately. Because in order to, be a good game developer, you have to actually play other games that are out there and, learn lessons from them. And I played a little bit ago at this point. We had kind of a break in recording the shows, but I have to gush for a little bit about Undertale. Have either of you played Undertale yet?
I have not.
No.
Heard about it.
It's one of those games that, it's spoilerly to like talk about it, but the general idea is that it's a, Japanese style RPG, but it fundamentally does things different than the format. It specifically plays against the expectations of the player and how much they are aware of the kind of game it is. So I've talked to people have different reactions to it because, if you come to it and this is like your first JRPG ever, it's like a really different experience than like someone who's played that format of game a million times before. And it kind of plays with what you're expecting to happen and then changing that, both in a story side and a mechanic side. Because it's like one thing is like, oh, it's a game with an amazing story. That's been done before. Like there are amazing stories out there. But it's less that the story is so well written and the characters are so great, but more so that they integrate that in a way in the gameplay that I have never seen done before. And so it stands out as unique.
Whoa.
I know, that sounds like really like high praise and like
salesman-y.
Yeah, I know. It's.
I'm watching the preview video right now. I saw it on sale at the Steam sale. It looks great.
Nothing about the game. Like, I had to like skip ahead after this moment, but I'm not going to spoil, too much. But the general idea of the game is, it's an RPG. And what do you do in RPGs? You have random boss battles and you fight and kill monsters. And so it's an RPG where you don't actually have to kill any monsters. You still have battles with them, and it's still an RPG format, but every battle is kind of a unique puzzle. And if you figure it out, you can figure out how to win the battle without actually hurting anyone.
Well, there you go.
It's every battle has a different solution.
It's the new theme now. Games don't have to be violent.
Yeah, it definitely plays on that. And I don't want to get too spoilery, but it does other unique mechanics that are, as I said, no other game's ever done before. And so I really think it's as a game designer, it's something I really, really appreciate. Like your standard gamers definitely also care about it. The game's incredibly popular, but it's definitely, a game for people who play a lot of games or like critiquing games or like designing games and thinking outside the box of what's been done. But again, it's also not necessarily like for everyone. It's not necessarily the best game ever made, but I personally really, really, really enjoyed it and highly recommend it.
Nice.
Cool.
So what about you two? What have you been playing lately?
Oh, man. I play a lot of games. I play a lot of PC. Some of my favorites for like 7 or 8 years now is like I'll always come back to Counter-Strike. I was a beta guy and then retail guy, now Global Offensive. Love that game. Left 4 Dead 2, Team Fortress 2. Rocket League has totally captured my attention, and I have almost 200 hours on it in the past few months.
Yeah, that's one of the new big team sport games, and it's very different than that shooter format. But I think people like that.
It's so good.
I've played that one a bit too. It's fun.
It's, you know, I've also seen are no NBA jams, no NFL blitzes, no hits, no like FIFA. There's no like approachable sports multiplayer games on PC, and so I feel like Rocket League is just totally filling that void, as well as being an amazing game.
That's a really good point, because the market for that is just so saturated that I think they kind of like there's not enough of this is one game that people can rally behind. So when you get something like Rocket League, which has never been done before, you know, like, okay, it's the soccer with cars genre. Like suddenly you get everyone, you know, rallying behind that one title in a way that you wouldn't be able to get behind a FIFA title.
Well, to me, it kind of has that like Mario Kart vibe to it. It's battle mode or whatever you're doing. It's just, it's fun, you know. It's like cruising around in these little cars and playing this kind of game. But they did a great job at kind of nailing that and just making
nailed the depth,
the replayability.
Oh man, being able to boost in the air. First time seeing that was just like, whoa, you could do that. And it's just like now the rest of my time playing is spent trying to hit the ball in the air and like look glorious, but actually look, you know, really haphazard. And
well, and for me, like I don't play a ton of games. I'm kind of like a mono gamer. I like to have like one game at a time kind of a thing, and I think that also applies to like my work and everything too. I don't like to try to do too many things at once, and same with like TV shows and things. I don't like to watch 50,000 different shows at the same time. I like to complete one or two at a time and then move on.
So what's been your latest obsession?
Well, it's been, I would say Ingress. I didn't play it initially because I just didn't even really know much about it. I read a little bit about it, and then suddenly a few people in town. I live in Nevada City, California. It's kind of a smaller rural area, but there's a huge Ingress community here of people playing, and there's a lot of historical artifacts around town, and the town that I live in is pretty small. You could walk it, and you know, it's a couple square miles. And so it's really cool. Like you could kind of just go around, and I've met several people that I didn't know. I've bumped into people on the Resistance or the other side that I'm on the Enlightened. I'm a Resistance player. So anyway, it's so much fun. Like I've gone out with people and played till, you know, midnight or 2 a.m. or whatever. We're driving around and taking out these fields. So it got really pretty addictive for me, and I really think I love the idea of kind of real, you know, changing a game where intermeshing it with a map in real life where you actually have to go to a physical place, I think is just something that hasn't been explored quite enough in games, and kind of like taking a game and the internet, combining it together in a new exciting way that's super addictive.
Yeah, we're just on the cusp of really like integrating games into your life, where it isn't just, I'm playing a game now, I now have to be in another world. I'm going to focus on this screen, you know, whether it's living room or your PC or whatever it happens to be, right? Where, you know, you can take out a phone anywhere now. And okay, now what happens if you put on a VR headset? What happens if you put on an AR headset? What happens when we integrate the GPS?
Yeah, and exactly. I feel like a game like Ingress could get bigger and bigger, and you know, there's going to be more of those types of things for sure. I mean, because it's just getting so much more interesting, and you know, you don't have to sit in your living room, which is great. I probably walk around a lot more now because I play that game. Probably drive around a lot more because I play that game, but yeah, I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah,
makes sense. If you want to find more information about the show, you can go to beindynow.com, where we have past episodes, show notes, links, all that good stuff. If you want to find more about me, you can go to my blog, tobiahz.com, or follow me on Twitter, Tobiah Zarlez. Where can we find more about you guys / Epic Skater?
There's epicskater.com, has links to all our socials, but you could also search Epic Skater Game. Pretty much bring us up anywhere. And then my personal handle is AndyTHPS. On Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever's, and Todd's probably got a few different ones.
You could just go toddwahoske.com, WAHOSKE. There you go.
Sweet.
Awesome. And we'll have links in the show notes as well. And everyone is a fan out there. I would really appreciate it if you promoted the show, tell a friend about it, play an episode for them. You know, I'd love to get more people listening. You know, if you have feedback about the show, let me know. If you know someone who would be a good guest, or you want to be a guest yourself, reach out to me, email me. Love to have you on. Andy, Todd, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I really appreciate you guys telling me your story.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, Tobiah.
And for everyone else out there, go out and make some games.